All right. Today, I have the honor of having my wonderful, bright friend, Mia, to
Hello.
my video today. Thank
Yeah,
you for being here.
no problem.
Really
Honored to be.
appreciate
Yeah, yeah.
it. um, and we were supposed to do this a while back, and I just got caught up with the holidays and
Life, life.
life,
Yeah,
you know.
life.
So
Yeah.
I've been excited to do this. I had the nerves coming in,
Yeah,
really like anticipating this video. So
yeah.
um as you see in the title, everyone, we're talking about emotional intelligence today, um, and how it applies to our lives. Um, our main area of focus would be between adults or parents and a child or their children or child. So, and what really just made me want to do a little collab video with Mia was just a um a story she shared. She shared a story that touched a bit on this topic because that's some like field of study you're doing, right? Like you've been into
Yeah,
different organizations, different projects, right? With children and
yeah.
everything.
Yes. I was well recently, as of life just happening and things changing, but I was previously a not recently, I was previously a behavioral wellness coach. So I worked with children and families that were sort of in jeopardy of being removed or
Right.
separated through the ACS and through foster care. So my job was to basically help the child regulate their emotions or figure out some sort of goals so that um, they could, work on their behaviors, work on their social skills, on their academic skills, so that they are no longer in jeopardy of being separated from their home. So there was a lot, actually. It's much more than that, but that's primarily what I
You're
did.
just
So
piecing up everything together from
yeah,
complicated situation.
very complicated.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
respect.
So it's interesting. So like throughout the years, and just also being like a community educator with children, and that was a job that I did at one point, and also working as a music specialist with children. I kind of understand the child and parent dynamic a little bit, um,
Mm.
and also just understanding that children sometimes have a not sometimes they have a challenging time understanding their emotions, and that can be the barrier between parent and child relationship. So that
And
is
it's
something
and
that,
it's amazing, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's like a lot of things besides just being second nature and going over our heads as adults, but this is children. I mean, it's
yeah,
just like the world is confusing, you know?
very,
So, I
even for
mean,
adults, yeah.
yeah, and I mean, not even to talk about what's going on now in the world. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
tough, but
yeah, yeah,
um, just really like facilitating for family um, needs and services. I mean, that really wanted me to, that really pushed me to want to
yeah.
do a video with you about this because that was one of my first videos in my platform. It was just emotional regulating and response to situations, to everyday life, because so much has happened with the pandemic and recovery from that. A lot of people, I mean, I for one don't feel like I've fully recovered from all the changes with children's education systems and employment, everything, relationships, so
Yeah,
I wanted to touch
yeah,
on this next, so I really thank you for being here.
yeah, yeah.
you
Thank you
know
for having me.
yeah,
Appreciate it. Yeah.
so just to like really give everybody a I know we caught up on our time, but um to give everyone a definition, a broad scope of emotional intelligence, it's pretty much just the ability to understand um, and respond to everyday life, whether it's situations, everything in general, generalized speaking, and managing how you receive it, how you respond to things, how do you feel about um, whether it's a crisis or a simple little instruction.
Mhm.
um, Finding positive ways to handle things and to respond to stress, to communicate um, thoroughly, effectively. And just to dissect that a bit, an example is just with sort of responding to what people, what you think people want to hear, not really being authentic to your nature, um, whether it's shame, um, anything like that, repressing your emotions for the sake of others, or just not having empathy, for people based on, stereotypes, narratives that's around you. Um, Being emotionally intelligent, you're capable of
Mhm.
feeling like you could overcome any of these instances that might make you feel complicated, inside, conflicted. And I think the biggest ways to start this off is like speaking in an adult perspective,
Mhm.
as a parent, right?
Mhm.
There's self-awareness that was probably tainted, in your upbringing, um, that's making you repeat the same cycle. Um, what you know from what was around you as a child, right? And not being able to adapt. Those are the biggest things that
Yeah.
that I see,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just finding, I guess, inside as an adult, like finding the roots of these issues, of these conflicts,
Hmm.
I think is like the best way to go.
I agree. Um, I know that, like, from personal experience as a child, yeah, you have all these emotions and you don't know what to do with them. You just act out on them, right? And
You're used to them, as
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And so because I don't know, I'm feeling, I don't even know that I'm feeling angry, but I'm feeling that emotion. And so I'm acting out. And the adults in the household that I was living in, because they didn't understand to um, how to regulate that emotion, or just even how to be aware of what I'm feeling as a child, what I was feeling as a child.
That's just
Um,
Mia,
yeah,
that
yeah, that's
mentality.
just me. Yeah, that's just me. But also, I think culturally, in like I guess primarily in African American houses, I don't know if it's like that. But whippings would happen too. So like you would get hit if you didn't know how to control yourself.
Yeah.
So as an adult, I've just learned to sort of I had learned to sort of suppress those emotions, because I thought I had a lot of shame of surrounding those emotions. And I think a lot of people experience that. So
Oh yeah.
then, you become a parent and then you kind of, like you said, recycling those same behaviors. So yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge is, for any parent that's in that situation now where they want to change, but they don't know how. And they're just
Mm,
labeling, they don't want to be soft. As an
yeah.
example, like you stated, like, I don't want to be soft on my child. My child used to like getting instilled discipline. I have
Mm,
badass kids, whatever it is. It's like
hmm.
when you're just caught up with that everyday life and you're just caught up with the stress from, employment or family, your environment, whatever it is. um, Sometimes the best thing to do is just really be there for your child emotionally,
Yeah.
and see any conflicts as like an opportunity rather than abuse
Mm,
emotionally that child. Because if there's, we're going to touch on the kid stuff in a moment, but as a parent, if your child is acting out, if your child is um, having difficulties in life, whether it's school or with their peers, um, it could be a range of things. I mean, they could
mm,
be getting, I mean, that happened to me, like you could act out because, you as a child don't know how to regulate what you're feeling. There could be some anxiety there. And, you're getting peer pressure, or there's a face of being bullied because you're standing out. I mean, all these things could really just induce an overload, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the quickest thing the parent will hear, if they're not having an investigative mentality, the mindset, and a hope in their child that there's a reason behind it, um,
Mm-hmm.
there's no empathy there. There's just a label. My son, my daughter did this, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
consequence behind that, you know?
Mm-hmm. 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 I
So,
know all too well as well. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that that's something that, there's like a schism, or like there's a gap between that with the parent and the child. And like you said, there's so much going on in the adults world and reality, and same with the child. And so being, like you said, being able to kind of bridge that gap and understanding as an adult, like you said, having the investigative
Mhm.
mindset to be like, okay, where is this coming from? You know, sometimes it doesn't always happen because there's so much going on. So yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
And one thing that's known worldwide is, like, parenting doesn't come with a manual, but being a child doesn't come with a manual, right? So
No,
it's
definitely not.
like the biggest things to, I guess, keep in mind is just trying to strategize and finding coping skills. I think,
Mm,
um, for your child, just teaching them coping skills, teaching them um, problem solving skills,
yeah.
and if there is um, an issue that they've done, a problem that they've done, having repercussions in place and discipline in place, but just not a fear tactic, you know,
Mm, yeah.
like
Yeah.
whipping them into shape, all these different things. Like, and now as adults,
Mm,
we don't feel shame towards our parents because it's just a cycle, like you said.
mm,
So it's like they're just instilling what they knew, but some of our parents try to better themselves. They're trying to
mm,
better what the parents showed them,
mm,
and of course, as children, we're always going to feel like, yeah, but they did this and that. And now that I'm learning this, and now that the world is changing, I'm learning this. Um, I don't advocate for that. And then
mm,
every therapist room or every situation, it's like, you know, that whole widely known stereotype that mommy issues, daddy issues. Like,
mm,
you're going to therapy because of mommy issues, because that's what it is.
mm,
We don't know
mm.
we don't know what's out there
Yeah.
in the world as
Yeah.
children. So
Yeah.
it's a
I
very
like that you
tough
said
place.
that. Yeah, it's a very, very tough place.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely. Man, I think that that's something that um you, to kind of piggyback on when you said, um what did you say? To piggyback off of when you said, dang, man, don't tell me I'm losing my train of thought right now.
Is it like the whole point of not having these, like, skills for their children present, and because of that it's just jumped
Yeah,
off to, like, repeating that cycle? Because I was
yeah,
sort of
that's
like echoing your words with that.
yeah,
you know
yes, it's a bunch of recycling.
yeah.
And we really don't understand, like you said, where it comes from or why it's even happening. And uh, we it shows in the way that we interact, and it affects the way that we interact with other people, even our children. Well, I don't have children, but even children, you know what I
But
mean?
that's
And
where
even
the,
through,
like you said, the culture aesthetic comes into play.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a huge big, it's big, it's big, it's big.
yeah.
Man, I mean, that's a whole nother layer um within
We could do
itself.
another video just on that,
Right. Just
but
historically the context of why
yeah,
we even, yeah. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it's a lot. You're right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing to just say is just patience, right?
Patience.
Because a lot of times we're learning from our children. I just covered that in the last video I uploaded. Like, we're learning things from our children, sometimes about ourselves.
Mm,
But these days, especially, like, there's so much theories on that with like, portals, universal energy with, indigo children and rainbow children, like a lot of
yeah.
different things. But I mean, there's so much more wisdom and
Mm,
divinity and
mm,
consciousness, and
mm.
I love it. I'm learning from my children with some things, and I think a big thing with that is just having patience.
Mm.
Having
Oh,
patience.
yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, what was one of the biggest things? Like how you said having patience.
Yeah,
Okay.
having
Yeah.
patience and motivating your child too.
Mm,
If they are having struggles because they are having a bad influence or whatever the case may be. If you have
yeah.
children, you're watching this video, you child apply it to their situation. I mean, just really try to find the nucleus of it and
Mm,
motivate them. Be their peer, be their confidant, be the cool
mm.
parent, right?
Yeah.
You
That's a
know?
good point you made. Be the cool parent. Okay, so
Yeah.
again, right? In the household that I was brought up in, or it just maybe this is a universal thought or school of thought for a lot of parents, is that,
Mhm.
well, I'm the parent and you're the child, and we're not friends. I used to hear that a lot. We're not friends.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
definitely, you heard that?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay. So
I didn't get like daily ass whoopings. I'm not saying that,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
just from a personal experience, it's like a lot of times, that discipline, that respect, you as a child feel like you have to earn that. You
Mm-hmm.
you have to earn that friendship almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
just like a parent's face.
Yeah, that's it.
You know.
And I think that definitely creates the separation because
Yeah.
my observation of parents, some parents, is that, like, you want to establish the discipline, you want to establish that respect, and so you make sure you draw the line and you say, no, this is not, we're not friends,
Right.
I'm
Right.
the child, I'm the adult, or they're the adult, and
Mm-hmm.
the other, that's the child. And so there is no, we don't talk about our feelings and we don't express ourselves and how we really feel. And I think that creates a big that further creates that gap where the child doesn't feel comfortable enough to even express themselves to their parent, you know what I mean, or even
Yeah.
tell them, like, hey mom, this is what I'm experiencing at school, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what that friend did to me when I was on the playground.
Exactly.
And obviously coming to, and not and fearing the shame that is associated with that, or even the repercussions that are associated with expressing
The
a
burden
feeling,
too. The
the
burden
burden. Yeah.
of
So
bringing that news and saying all these things, being in that
yes.
conflict.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I agree. It's a big one. I definitely feel like, um from what would like to see happen or change, um is, I think, being able to really level with the child.
Mm-hmm.
I think even before leveling with the child, I think a lot of it just takes the parent being very self-aware. I think that that's the biggest step, right? Because this child is comes from you. This is an example of this child, and is an example of two people consciously creating in that, this, I'm trying to
That
find the
universe,
word,
that
but
universe. It's like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's their world.
Yeah. And
They're the
so
face of it, you could say.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so, like, I think, to when those emotions start to come up and those feelings start to come up, and they definitely reflect what the adult is going through or has gone through, like we talked about, or
Mm-hmm.
has experienced. So I think, like, first and foremost, from observation, I think what I'd like to see change is that parents sort of level with their child, and having a bit of self-awareness about like, why is this something that's happening to me? Because I think
Finding the
that
source of that challenge. Yeah.
yeah, finding the source of that challenge, and even asking questions like, okay, does this child's behavior, is this a result of what I've done, or is this a result of what I may not have been able to do properly? How can I change this? How can I better communicate with my child so that they understand, like you said, that they can be supportive,
Yeah.
that they can encourage their child or motivate their child. So yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what I would like to see, instead of labeling it as, oh, they're bad and so that's it. And
Hmm.
that like you said, that within itself for the child is a burden, to have to carry that for the rest of their lives. Like, okay, I'm this bad child, or I'm always in trouble. I'm always recognized for this bad
Hmm.
behavior. And so might as well act out in that way. I don't know where it comes from, but I'm gonna just do what I'm gonna do as I've been told I am.
Thug life,
So
thug life.
yeah, thug it out. Yeah, thug life. Yeah. So
It's true. And that's where it comes down to really just not getting caught up as a parent with, or as a caretaker with everyday life,
mm,
because that's the result, like you said. And even with you mentioning as parents of that like era, right? That time frame of like whether it's electrical cords or leather belts,
mm,
all these things, like the biggest struggle is just not being able to be vulnerable
mm,
emotionally,
mm,
and that's just what a lot of adults weren't really familiar with. They weren't really like, that wasn't really a practice. You
mm,
would be like, a sucker or all these different things,
mm,
all these different, terms. And the biggest thing with emotional intelligence is just being smart with your feelings. That's like the slogan of it,
mm,
so even you as a parent, like if you feel like you're failing that child, rather than expressing that frustration,
mm,
right? You want to show empathy and express how you, sort of like the cup glass being half empty, half full. Do the
yeah.
half full perspective and just say, I feel frustrated because I want the best for you, because I want you to be better than me.
Mm, I
I
like
know
that.
you're enough. I know you're great. Instead
Mm,
of saying, why are you doing this? This isn't
mm,
you, right?
mm,
You know better than this.
mhm.
And all these different, you know, different
Statements.
euphemisms,
Yeah.
it's just like finding that perspective to be vulnerable emotionally and sort of draw their confidence in. And you're not
Mm,
manipulating in a bad way, because
mm,
manipulation, you're forming something, you're
mm,
changing things.
mm,
Manipulation itself it's definitively it's that,
mm,
right?
mhm,
So it's not a bad thing to manipulate a situation.
mm,
You just want to take a qualitative approach than just say the usual things your child is used to hearing and feeling that shame.
mm, mm.
You know?
I agree. I totally and completely agree with you. Um, yeah, I've seen in my own experiences, in one of the cases that I had, um, the young girl that I was working with, she was considered, um, she had some behavioral issues, but and she also had she would walk out of the house, she would run away. She was a runaway case a lot.
Got you.
And so the parents, obviously very frustrated, um, would speak to her. I remember they would speak to her and say, well, they would be upset, very frustrated. And so that child can automatically feel that anger and frustration from the parent. So there's a little bit of fear and like, oh, I've done something incorrect, I've done something wrong. But also that the parent would say, like you said, you're better than this, or
Mhm.
I raised you differently. Um, or sometimes there is a lot of shame in the behavior that they do, like, you do this and you shouldn't be doing that. And
Such
there's a
responsibility for a child, like
yeah,
so
yeah,
much
yeah,
responsibility and weight. Yeah.
yeah. And I can see the child that I was working with, I can see her completely shut down. She closed, but it was like a wall, boom, automatically. That was sort of a barrier between the way that her and her mother were able to communicate. We're not able to communicate really. And
Yeah.
so that's something that, yeah, I definitely recognize and I see. And I think that if the mother had maybe been a little bit more, like you said, patient,
Mm.
um, and acts like, where is this coming from? Why do you feel this way? Oh man, and I would have, and a lot of times the mother would not be very encouraging at all. It was always, you do this and you are the reason that the family is like this. It was a lot of blame on the
Rather
child.
than rather than genuine awareness for the child, it's just this
Yes,
this title, this mask
yes,
of
yes,
expectations, and
yes,
yeah.
yes. And so I never told the parent this, but if I ever have a situation like this, again, I promise myself that I will express this, but to just tell the child, like, like, I'm here for you. Like, I understand that things are really challenging right now. I understand that, whatever you're experiencing may be really difficult to comprehend.
Yeah.
Um, but I want, like you said, I want the best for you. How can we make this better?
Yeah.
How can we change this together?
Hmm.
Um, I know that you can do better than this. I know you can. And I know you can. I believe in you. And
Right.
I think that because I never heard the mother ever tell the child that, it was always something negative. I was like, man, of course the child is gonna be like, well, I mean, no one's telling me that I'm better than this. Just gonna continue
Hmm.
to play out these emotions and behaviors. And I can tell that the child didn't feel supported. So I think that having patience, the level of self-awareness, and that the words of encouragement and support could really help a child tremendously. So
And I think as adults, I mean, I get caught up every day. I think us as humans do, but as
yeah.
a parent, you just get caught up in your believing that your child already knows better and
Mm,
already understands life. And
mm,
just having twins with autism, it's like that really made me just investigate all these different things because I wanted to just really advocate for them, and not repeat or create another form of a cycle where they now as humans are going to be born being misunderstood, and
mm,
then as adults they're just going down a rabbit hole affected by me,
mm,
and creating this cycle. So I think just sort of having the mindset that the world isn't obvious for a child. It's not. You have to label emotions, you have to express what's happening. And when your child feels understood, the world doesn't really make sense. Even, I mean, when a child is like, I believe the statistic is, I think 10 years of age or 9,
mm,
is when a child starts becoming emotionally intelligent. So that's 10
wow.
years of life.
Mm,
10 years of life. So traumas, I mean, I covered this in another video, like traumas could come from a place that is just so simple
mm,
for all of us, for the
mm,
average general population, but for that individual, it's scarring, it's horrifying, and just really just expressing to like a child, you know what, there's a reason this is happening, there's a reason you're running away.
mm,
I want to be able to earn your trust, to understand why you feel like you can't be here.
mm,
I'm trying my best. If you feel like I'm not trying my best, let me know what it is.
mm,
And maybe you could be a part of this. You could be a
mm,
part of helping me.
mm,
Even though I'm grown and I'm your parent, you could help me,
mhm,
and you start to identify what these emotions are
mm,
instead of repeating that same thing of just, lifting your hand and and just making them controlling and
Mm,
instilling fear, that heavy
mm,
emotion, you
mm.
know.
That's a crippling emotion.
Yeah,
I'd say that's probably the most crippling emotion
yeah,
that we have. Yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
know. And that's the other thing too, like just a scientific study shows that the magnetism, the electricity in our hearts, that our hearts pump, you know, when you feel like you just get bad vibes, right?
Mm,
You just feel um like, you know, as a parent, let's say you have a hard day or your child has a hard day, um you just feel like something's off.
mm,
Besides getting visual
mm,
hints and cues from them, let's say they just have a smile on and they're pretending they're okay, like you might feel something's off. And this this frequency we emit through this magnetic fields that we present in ourselves from our beating organ, our heart, we could sense when something's off.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's just another way where, like, just being emotionally aware, being self-aware, being aware of your environment, your child, your
Mm,
family, it goes a long way. It's deep. And this study, it's like, it's real. Like, it's been
mm.
proven. I forget like the person who studied it, but it's like, I think it's 3 feet, 3 feet of
Oh,
distance. You could
mm,
get a person's magnetic frequency.
oh, I see. Okay, like the
Yeah.
electromagnetic
Yeah.
frequency
Because
that's
we all
emitted.
have a
Yeah,
magnetic field around us, you know?
yeah,
So when it's
yeah,
like, you know, don't kill my vibes and all this, like, the vibes is real.
yeah,
That's real stuff. I'm telling you.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You know?
It's interesting. Okay, so when you say self-aware, right? So let's say a parent doesn't understand, or an adult doesn't understand what that means to be self-aware.
I got a thing right here, so I'm gonna share it real quick while you tell me so people can see.
Yeah. So like
Where is it?
I guess the beginning of that, and for me, I can talk from personal experience.
Hmm.
Um, like up until what 2 years ago, I would have all these emotions and I would have a lot of shame surrounding them. And I didn't know what I was feeling.
You can see that?
But yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know what I was feeling, and so I think for parents or adults who don't understand like what that means to be self-aware, I think the first step is if you have shame surrounding those emotions, just opening up to yourself as much as possible and being able to to trust yourself to understand that you are not in any you're not in any pain, like not in any pain, but that through the other side of those emotions, there is light, there is understanding. And
This
so for me,
sacrifice is worth it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like getting through
Yeah.
those difficult emotions. But I think if any parent or adult is experiencing shame, just trust yourself and open up to yourself and allow yourself to guide you into understanding what this actually means. And that was very difficult for me with becoming self-aware, was acknowledging that all of these feelings that I'm experiencing are very real and they are all justified. They are okay. They are all okay.
It's in our
Even
signature. It's our code. It's who we are.
yeah,
It's valid. Yeah.
it's valid. It's valid. Even the
Oh
emotions of
yeah.
jealousy, emotions of envy, that's real. And I know a lot of times, at least for what I'm seeing, and maybe I'm not understanding the context of a lot of those memes on Instagram, what they say, oh, stay away from people who are jealous or stay away from. It's like, yo, we all have the emotions. We all experience jealousy.
A lot
We
of
all,
stuff uplifting. It's
yeah,
it's it's directive. So
yeah,
it's just to make you feel better as the individual.
mm,
So a very envious person could read that and like it. Let's just say that
yeah, yeah,
actually, you know, does actions
Mm,
that a lot of people won't morally accept, but they'll
mhm,
still feel support from that post. But I
mm,
love that example that you're saying, because exactly, like, why are the bad emotions bad to feel, right?
mhm.
It's like they're not bad emotions. They're a part of our signature. They're a part of the different channels of our brain,
Yeah,
right? And there's a
yeah.
reason we feel it. And sometimes these bad emotions could help us be
Mm,
aware of something, could help us avoid something or respond to something better.
yeah, I
Mhm.
agree. And I think to even label it as bad even, you know what I mean? Like, imagine being considered anything that we think, or like, let's say just considering ourselves bad or good. Like, that
Yeah.
sounds so definitive, right?
It,
I can't imagine saying that I'm bad, like, because I
it's
have an
black and white.
emotion.
It's all black
Yeah,
and white. And a
it's
lot of
like,
things, I'm so sorry, just
okay,
to really bounce into that idea,
yeah.
emotions are like dreams. Like, it's just
Mm,
feelings.
mm,
So it's
yes.
like there's times where we don't even like think like I'm bad, I'm this, but you
Mm,
feel it and it's just as powerful. So just
yes,
being self-aware, like you see in the wheel, I
yes,
mean, when you have
yes.
that ability to say what you're saying right now,
Mm,
that's when you could do what you was talking about. So I didn't mean to cut
yeah.
you off. I just wanted to
No,
say
it's good.
that that's how emotions work. It's
Yeah.
you don't think, it's not put into words. It's like a dream, you know,
I like that. I like that.
autopilot.
Yeah. So yeah, it's okay. All of your feelings are valid.
Hmm.
All of your feelings are valid. And they're just waiting for you to understand yourself, understand it more. That's all. Like, think of it as a like a friend. I mean, essentially, because all it is all these things are happening inside of you. So think of it as, and I don't think that anybody wants to consider themselves bad or consider themselves malignant, right? Because they have all these feelings and emotions. So just, if you know, without labeling yourself as any of those things, just say, okay, like, I'm experiencing this emotion. This is coming from me. I
Hmm.
know that deeply, like, I'm not I'm not a bad person, and these feelings don't define me as bad, or don't define me as this way or that way. It's just, let it just be a friend. Let it be a friend of you, that of yours, that comes up and says, "Hey, like, I want to talk. Let's talk."
And I love
And
that example. That's a
yeah,
beautiful example, because it's usually emotions, like I said, it's something that you're vulnerable to. So depending on how powerful it is, or how powerful a situation is in your life, like a lot of times we try to just shut it and just, we practice avoidance.
hmm,
And even like a certified counselor I've spoken to, like, I love how she just mentions just sit with emotions, to be vulnerable, and just to acknowledge that it's just something that is present. It's there for a
yeah,
reason.
yeah,
And that self-talk, that self-parenting, I love that you mentioned that. That's just
yeah,
such a crucial way. I mean, children help heal adults a lot
mm,
of times, a lot of
mm,
instances. But if you're in a household where like you don't have children, or your children, they're just calm, they're doing things fine, so nothing's alarming, like, and you have something there that's broken,
mm,
especially if you like lost somebody and you were just never able to tell this adult this when you was a child, like, that self-parent, that self-talk, like, that's such a beautiful energy, because
yeah,
it's just something that really helps a person in so many lengths.
yeah,
Their
for sure.
morale, the ego, that's just known to be something that's just bad, negative. I
Yeah,
mean, it's in our brain. It's
yeah,
the chemicals that trigger it. I mean, that's like the birth of ego is real. It's
yeah.
there already. Um,
Mhm.
but it's just a matter of keeping it, whether it's small or it's a high level, keeping it a healthy place.
Mm,
There's a grid for that. Like, I mean, that ego grid, just when you're just having a healthy ego and you talk to yourself, like your example, it's
Mhm.
just you're like almost unstoppable. Like you're contagious.
Mm.
Your positivity is contagious. You
Mm.
heal people emotionally. You reach them. I could use the same words that another person could use, but it's just you, something about you. You heal people, and
Mm.
that process is the ego. Like that
Mm.
person's ego is at a healthy place when they
Yeah,
have just like genuine, healthy self-talk and self-parenting.
yeah, yeah. And
I
like
love
you
that
said,
example. Yeah.
it's definitely something real. I attribute all of this. I just want to plug my
Oh yeah,
mentor because she
go for
helps
it.
me a lot. But Mayette Aja JB from Internal Growth and Wellness, she has helped me to understand and be self-aware of my emotions. And
Can you?
so
Would you want me to like type it in, like their page or something, or just a
oh
little
yeah,
shout?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. How do I let's see. But
I guess the chat on the
okay, let's see.
type it up while you.
But yeah, so can you still see me?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
be good.
So she has helped me she's helped me to acknowledge a lot of my emotions. She's given me the tools.
Mm.
And self-parenting is actually a big part of um healing.
Oh yeah,
It's a huge part of healing,
I've
yeah.
been on that journey. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
yeah. So it's like
Oh yeah.
it's big. It's like a lot of times, we're triggered all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to have that conversation with ourselves and even comforting our inner child is so incredibly important. Um, and that's not really talked about a lot, but self-parenting, like you said, is very
Yeah.
powerful. Very, 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 very powerful. It is so important to our inner child as adults because we often forget about our inner child and that it does need to be tended to often.
And people
So
just feel,
yeah,
like I said, they feel astray and they're just gone. Like mommy
yeah,
issues, daddy issues. They're just like they felt astray. So that's just like a void that's just stuck
yeah,
there. So
yeah, yeah,
that that definitely is a huge contributor
yeah,
to
for
just
sure.
managing a healthy life, you
Yeah,
know.
I
But
agree. I agree.
just as a child's perspective, like I think these tips I just want to go off of, and whatever
Yeah.
you want to touch on, you can.
Hmm.
Um, just as an adult, just handling, criticism, not having any blame, not having any excuses towards your child or for your child.
Hmm.
Sometimes denial is a huge contributor to a child not being emotionally active, not being able to self-regulate, self-aware, because they're dependent on the parents
Hmm.
to fix their issues. So that's a big one to just keep in mind. Actively listening to your child, which I feel like
Hmm.
we've covered a lot of,
Hmm.
um, and just being able to apologize, being able
Hmm.
to accept as an adult, you know what? I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry, my little girl. I'm sorry. You know, just
Yeah.
doing that and not feeling any pride that you're now weak. You're now in their
Hmm.
friend level, like you mentioned, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and being their coach, giving them a reward system, motivating them. That goes a huge, long, long way. Especially when you give them goals, because whatever their values are, they're gonna jump towards. They're gonna dive first in. So just being able to just say, hey, if you give them realistic expectations. Don't set them up to be frustrated if they can't excel. But if you give them expectations, like, hey, I want you to do this. I want you. This is the goal, and give them an amount of time. Research. The internet is there. Like
Mhm.
people research enough with
Yeah.
the different rumors and gossip, controversies. Like Google could be our friends, you know, and just
Yeah.
researching the expectancy of goals that you could give your child. Um, that would give them a not a need, but a huge desire.
Mhm.
You know, they're gonna feel vigorous
Mm.
about wanting to excel.
Yes,
You know,
definitely. Yeah.
so that's just something that I wanted to just cover.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely, yeah. I like all of that.
here we go. Oh my gosh, I totally I totally follow her. I'm on her IG too.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah, you
yeah.
shared her stuff before. I was with it. I was with
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I follow her on IG.
Yes. Oh, she has a LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's what I found on Google.
Yes, honey.
So there you go, Maya Aja JB.
Yeah,
Um,
Isaiah JB, yeah.
and also for any more info, if you're in certain fields or if you just stumbled across this video, you appreciate it. I'm hoping that I spelled this correctly. Is that your IG name?
Close.
Okay. What do
So
I
it's
need?
so you got the MIA and then it's underscore DI.
Underscore.
Yeah,
Okay.
underscore
One
DI.
I.
2 I's for every I you see.
Ah, got you.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep.
There you
Boom.
go. That's her IG right there.
I
You
told
know,
you.
follow her.
I'm an artist. I make music. I have a
Woo!
single out called
Love
I
it.
Think. More to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I genuinely love your posts when you do songs because it's just so soft and you just see your expression, you see the passion there,
Oh,
like facially in your voice, like it's
yeah.
soft and it gets love it. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah.
And I thank Alberto for considering me to be on this Zoom today,
Oh yeah,
and I'm just honored to be here.
of
I'm honored
course.
to be
Honors
here.
on mine. And I wanted to say and touch one thing actually, from our notes, just the shaming and perfectionism we got, but
Oh yeah.
the um the behavioral genetics,
Mm,
that's one thing we didn't touch on. So I think
yeah.
just ending that with that big kaboom is good.
Yes.
Um,
Kaboom.
that's it. Like I touched on this in my last video with
Yes.
autism and autism
Mhm,
parenting. It's like any child in general,
mhm,
just sort of reflecting the frustrations like we spoke about. But if it comes from a place where you as a parent or adults even that are part of like different organizations, their staffs that manage
mhm,
children, like seeing themselves, seeing their pain, seeing their um, struggles in children,
mm,
and seeing these behaviors. So they're aware of it. They know the signs. Like that child's probably doing this because of that. But rather
mm,
than feeling driven to take the heavy emotional route, I think it's good to practice the empathetic route because
mm,
a lot of things are biological that a
mhm,
lot of adults, a lot of people that care for children, they don't want to see that. They don't want
mm.
that reflects them, like you said. You said it's like sort of like they're the face of it when the parents
Like a
suffer.
mirror.
It's a mirror.
Yeah.
So actually, when you help your child do that, sometimes that heals the parent,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
being open-minded about that. And what's an example you could give me of that?
We talked about it with the we talked about it earlier before
I love
recording.
that example she
With,
said. I loved it. It's so spot
with
on.
Bridgerton, right? So the
Shout out to
Duke's,
Bridgerton,
yeah,
Netflix.
yeah, yeah. With the Duke's father. had this really high expectation for his child. This,
Yeah.
like he said, like Alberto said, this perfectionism for his child, right? Um, and Alberto had put it perfectly in when you said that he was placing all of his fears onto his child because his child was stuttering, right?
It was a
I
speech
hope I said that
impediment.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
stuttering, and the father was so ashamed of that, and took a lot of his fears and frustrations out on his child to the point where like they had a very estranged relationship. He drove his child away. And so that was like a perfect example of that. Yeah.
And if you uh if you actually like see that, like if you haven't seen that show, look up that scene,
Yeah, man.
because that scene, it's like it's harsh. Like you
Yeah.
feel so bad. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
just share this quick because this is Google. They're not gonna flag my video. I'm not even that. I don't have a huge following or anything, so whatever. All right, here we go. Right there.
Yeah.
During childhood, he was rejected by his father, Lord Hastings, due to his stammer that would be especially embarrassing to the family for several reasons. So there you
Mm.
go. There's a shame and embarrassment,
Mm-hmm.
and this could be
Mm-hmm.
tied into social stature.
Yeah.
This could be tied into religion, with
Mm-hmm.
seeing the people around,
Mm-hmm.
you wanting your child to shine.
Yes.
This could be tied into, like you said, a whole culture aesthetic, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
for a school system or family gatherings. Um, this happens. This is real stuff.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
one, the Hastings were granted a place in the royal family by the queen, which means that it could be taken away. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
he feared that shame and repercussion.
Yes. Yeah.
And man grew up handsome, happy,
Yeah.
right? Doing his
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
doing his thing. So it shows you that
Okay.
sometimes it gets out of control. And he was like his father was like dying or something, right? And he was
Yeah.
like, was he cold with him still? I can't remember,
He
but
was very cool with him. He actually, I think his last words were like, "I'm not going to continue."
uh
I don't know how to word it, but I'm not going to continue the name.
like accept you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So that's why in his relationship,
uh,
he was ashamed of his own emotions.
and
Do you
he
remember
grew
that?
up
He
that
was
way.
so hard about it. He was
He
like,
grew up that
no,
way.
like
Yeah.
there's so much shame around it. And I was like, yeah, so
That's
that can
emotional
happen.
intelligence, guys, right there. If you haven't watched that show, if you watched it, that's exactly what we're talking about. We invested our
Yeah.
time on this, spread awareness about it, share this
Yeah.
video if you appreciate it, guys,
Yeah.
and look us up. And
Yeah.
hope you guys are safe during these times.
Oh man, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Be safe. Take care of yourselves during this time. Definitely.
Peace and love, everybody.
Peace and love. Bye.